Hello, everyone. Sorry, I totally messed up the intro. For everyone new here, my name's Dan. I'm one of the founders of StreamYard. As those of you that watch this regularly are aware, besides the fact that I screwed up the intro, usually there's two of us. So usually we have both StreamYard founders here. Today it's just me. So you're stuck with one founder, but I will do my absolute best. And I always enjoy running them by myself. I think this is only the third town hall I've ever done by myself. So should be fun, and I'm looking forward to it. As a lot of you are aware, there are several reasons we do these town halls. So we've done one literally every single week since we kind of first launched StreamYard, or within a few months of when we first launched StreamYard. And the reason we do them, there's a few reasons. First one is just to kind of go through the exact same steps you do. So like right now, I'm live by myself. I have the same kind of feelings you guys do when you go live. And I find it's very useful for us when we're making product decisions to be able to put ourselves into your shoes by actually going through the same flow you go through. So that's a huge part of it. Another one, though, is just to be here to answer questions for you, to let you know kind of what's coming down the pipe, what we're working on, get your feedback on things. That's a huge part of it as well. So those are the main reasons for the town hall. I know Geige has it very down to a point and says it the same way every time. This whole show is going to be me mixing things up and making them unique. So get ready for that. Of course, for every town hall, we always mention what the 3 pillars of StreamYard are. So just to give you even more context, because some of you you've heard what the 3 pillars are, but just to give you more information on this one, we came up with these 3 pillars when we first started StreamYard. And the whole point was we wanted to define what are the most important things for us to get right, what matters the most, or what do we think matters the most when it comes to live streaming. So that's kind of how we landed on the 3 pillars. So the first one is ease of use. We've always just wanted StreamYard to be the easiest tool to use, right? It should be very, very simple to go live, just a couple clicks and you look great. The next one is stability, so never having any issues whatsoever. And then the third one is what we call professional streams, which just means kind of back to the first one. We want to make it super easy for you to go live and look great while you go live. So those are the 3 pillars of StreamYard. We remind you every single week, as a lot of you are aware. Now, I'll get to questions and comments in a minute, but first, I just want to remind everyone of some of the other shows that StreamYard has. So this is just the town hall show, but we have several shows on a not necessarily weekly basis, but different weeks throughout every month. So some of them are weekly, some of them are monthly, some are bi-weekly. But first one is the StreamYard Spotlight Show. So this is one from Dana and Kelsey, where they go live to highlight different people in the StreamYard community and just talk about what's working for different users. I find it's very useful just to get familiar with, hey, what tactics are other people using to successfully do live streams? And then you can kind of borrow from that and learn from that. So that's first Thursday of every month. We have YouTube channel reviews with Dean Niman and Daniel Batal, where they're going through all things YouTube, not just live streaming, every second Saturday. So this is just on the StreamYard YouTube channel. We have Enhanced Your Live Streaming the last Tuesday of the month with Nick Niman. Definitely knows what he's talking about. All of these people definitely know what they're talking about. So Nick is talking about all things live streaming, again, last Tuesday of the month. And same thing, that's on our YouTube channel, although I believe probably every other destination as well that we usually stream to. Live stream reviews. So this is Christian. He goes live the first and third Saturday at noon Pacific. And just reviewing all kinds of different live streams, which I find super useful. Open office. So if you have any other questions besides the town hall, the other great place to ask them is either in the community group just at any time, or you can go to the open office, which is in our community group at 11 a.m. Eastern, first and third week, every second Tuesday. And then one other thing I want to mention, this has nothing to do with shows, but I think it's useful to mention, is that we have a January challenge coming up. So this is just something to look out for in the community group for anyone kind of getting started with streaming. So I think that'll be a fun one. So if you're just fairly new to streaming, check out the Facebook group, the Facebook community group for StreamYard, and just have your eye open for a challenge coming up in January. One final thing before I start diving into the questions, we always like to do a fun fact. And this is basically just a way for us to get to know you better, you to get to know us better, and then everyone in the chat to kind of get to know each other better. So this week, our fun fact, how many siblings do you have? And feel free to add extra context around your answer. So for me, I have one brother, one older brother. And Geige isn't here, obviously, but I can answer for him. Geige has one younger sister. So curious to hear from all of you. How many siblings do you have? And with that, let's get into some comments. There's a lot of them. I'll do my best to manage, as you know. Geige usually manages the comments and the banners, but here we go. Let's do this. We have a lot of hashtag the yards. All right, Adam wants a little drum solo. Maybe. I noticed it doesn't get picked up very well, unfortunately, Adam. But yes, that is a real drum set. It's not a virtual background or anything. And yes, I am actually, so Kelsey's already spotted it. I am testing out one of our new features right now and loving the new background, the new Christmassy background as well. Man, there's a lot of stuff about playing drums. And yes, I definitely relate, Monty. Pressing the button definitely adds some anxiety. And again, that's why it's so useful for us to do it as well. Whew, we got a lot of answers here. So 2 older sisters, 1 passed away in February. I'm sorry to hear that. 2 sisters and 1 brother. You're the oldest. Awesome. Geige might actually pop on right at the end, by the way, but I don't think he'll make it. He's on a flight, just for anyone that's wondering, and just landed, heading to his hotel, but I'm guessing I'll be soloing this whole one. Okay, let's talk about features. That's my personal favorite thing to talk about. So we didn't put up a banner. Probably some of you have noticed, at least not that I'm aware, we usually have a feature announcement banner on our thumbnail. I don't think we had it this time. Maybe we did and I just missed it. But we do have a new feature, and it was one that we chatted about last week. We were asking a bunch of questions about last week. And of course, it is also the one that I am showing off right now. So that is solo layout. And actually, it's really, we should probably call it solo layout with visible background. So what this feature allows you to do is essentially exactly what I am doing right now with some extra customization around it. So sometimes, especially when you're by yourself, or even if you have multiple people, but you want to spotlight just one person. So anytime you want to just have one camera on screen, the default, and I'll actually switch to it just so you can see, the default you're probably familiar with is this, where I just fill up the whole screen, which is great, honestly, for most things. But sometimes it's nice to mix it up, especially when you want to have like a cool background, like a Christmassy themed background, which I think is a lot of fun. So there's now a setting that lets you do this, and we actually showed off what it looks like last week. I'll probably screen share a few things in this town hall. So let me screen share this. Let's get rid of myself. Okay, so when you are in the studio by default, and actually I'll just turn on my camera or just my mic. So when you're in the studio, I'll resize it so it looks a little better as well. Okay. When you're in the studio, by default, this is what your solo layout will look like. So again, you'll kind of fill up the whole area. If you want to shrink it down, you just come into settings. There's a new layouts option here on the left. Click on that. Crop solo layout to show background image. So exactly what it sounds like. It'll shrink you down. Now your background's visible. One thing I should mention, because we had some questions about this last week. I've got to actually mute my mic because the circle's distracting. One thing we had questions about last week is, what if you want to be able to switch back and forth real easily? One trade-off we made is we figured most people are probably going to turn this setting on and leave it on, or turn it off and leave it off. So yes, in order to change it in mid-show, you do have to click on the settings, go into here and change it. So it's doable, but not necessarily like a super quick access thing. But there's a lot of advantages of doing it the way that we have it. One of them, for example, is if you were in another layout, like in one of these layouts at the bottom, and you had a bunch of guests, and then you wanted to solo a specific guest, that guest would still go directly into this layout. So essentially, anytime in any layout, if there's only one person on screen, they will go into this layout. So there's just kind of some trade-offs we were balancing, and basically decided that not that many people were going to switch between them, and a lot of people were going to want it to behave consistently like this, no matter who was being full screen, and to make it super easy to be able to use these solo buttons at the bottom. This is how we've ended up doing it. So big fan of the feature. Curious what you all think of it, if there's anything you'd want to change, if you've had a chance to try it, because we did release it actually midweek. Let me get out of this layout here. Stop sharing. All right, let's see if we have any comments here. A shortcut to swap between the layouts? Yes, I think that would make sense. So we don't have that right now, but a hotkey would probably be nice. And that would simplify it. I agree. So to answer your question, Michael, it's not a new layout. Like, we still have the 7 at the bottom. It kind of just changes how everything behaves when there's only one camera. That's basically how it works. How did I get back to full screen? So like, yeah, how do you like shrink it down and then get it back up? It's just changing that setting. And again, you can actually play with this one if you want already. Like if you're on StreamYard, if you've got a broadcast open, you can go in there and try it out right now if you'd like. I know sometimes we'll kind of talk about the feature and then it comes out a couple of days later. This one is actually already up. By the way, happy holidays, everyone. I don't think I even mentioned that. My background kind of says that all, but happy holidays. All right, what else do we have? Yes, Pete, I'm a big fan of the holiday music as well. All right, some other questions. Can you help us get 1080p on screen sharing? Thank you, Dan. So right now, your screen sharing should be 1080p if your broadcast itself is 1080p. So if you go into your settings in the general tab and make that 1080p and then share a screen, that screen should be 1080p. If it's not, maybe feel free to contact support. New solo layout is fantastic. Awesome. Glad to hear that. You're doing great, Dan. Thanks, Clarion. I always like, honestly, the experience of just going by yourself because obviously Geige and I, it's usually kind of the same setup every time. Once in a while, we'll switch it up, but it is nice to solo it. All right. Melissa says it works great. Just tried it. Awesome. David's looking forward to using the slide share feature. That is definitely one of my favorite features. So for anyone that's not familiar, you can now upload a slide deck without having to screen share it, which especially if you have one monitor. Like usually I have several monitors, but sometimes if I'm traveling or something, I have one monitor. I know a lot of people have one monitor, especially if you're just using a laptop. To be able to to slide share, just share a slide deck without having to switch tabs and be looking at another tab to switch slides. I'm a huge fan of that feature. Yeah. So hope you enjoy it. Double click the solo image to toggle would be kind of cool. Interesting. Yeah, we actually thought about something like that and kind of experimented with it. It wasn't double click, but it was kind of similar. Might be something to explore. We're always trying to find like little ways to make it a bit easier. But I agree that a hotkey, I think, Michael, you mentioned that as well. That would probably work quite well. Clarine has a LinkedIn show on Tuesday, and we'll try out the solo layout. Awesome. Let us know how it goes. All right. Already 14 minutes in. So I think I've got a few other things I wanted to cover. Obviously, feel free if you have other thoughts to let me know about that specific feature. But a couple other things I wanted to cover. So one of them is it's basically similar to what we were doing the last 2 weeks. We've shipped so many features in the last 2 months or so that I want to make sure we're taking some time to just ask you questions, make sure things are working well for you. If there's anything you want changed, let us know. So I wanted to cover a few things we've already shipped and then go deeper on them and just ask some kind of follow-up questions for all of you. So again, we did this for a few features the last 2 weeks, but a couple more this week. So I want to specifically talk about teams and then also virtual backgrounds. So let's start. So this is our new feature overview. Start with teams. So I could probably screen share, but even before I do, if you have any questions about teams, anything you wish we would change, pretty much anything at all related to teams, let me know. I'm always trying to adapt as fast as we possibly can and make the product as good as we can. So very open to feedback on this. Some of the things I wanted to point out for teams that is probably fairly useful. One is just the fact that there are 2 different roles for anyone who's not aware of it. So for anyone who's never tried Teams before, there's now a tab on the left called Members on your dashboard. You can add other team members. Those members can have 2 different roles. One of them is an admin, which can basically do anything except access billing, but they can add destinations. They can add other team members. They can create broadcasts, go live. Whereas a co-host, which is the other role, can't do all that much, but they can do some very useful things to help out in your broadcast. So a co-host can come into the studio. So they can't create broadcasts, they can't create destinations, they can't view billing, they can't add members, but they can go into the broadcast and then they can kind of just help out with that broadcast. So they can show comments on screen, they can show banners on screen, they can add and remove people from the screen, they can change the layout, a lot of things just to make your life easier. So there's two different roles. I think a lot of people are not necessarily aware of that. But yeah, if you have any questions around those, like one thing I'd be really curious about actually is if there's any other roles you would love to see. So somewhere maybe between a co-host and admin, or maybe just more customization ability. Like I want someone to be able to show comments and nothing else. Anything like that, definitely open to feedback. All right, Brian has used the team feature when he couldn't make one of his broadcast days. I appointed an admin and it worked out marvelously. Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely the way to go with making them an admin, that because they can pretty much do everything. You can, even to the point of like if a destination has issues, which like actually was a good example is just today. Geige is usually the one that sets up the destinations for our stream, but I also have access to all of them, like to our LinkedIn page, YouTube channel. So I'm an admin on Geige's account. So if I have issues when I go live, even though Geige is the one that set up the destinations, I can actually reconnect them and kind of, do whatever's needed to make them work. If maybe, we lost access to YouTube or something for some reason. You have the best camera ever. I appreciate that. It's not the highest quality one ever for sure. Like we have a lot of people, even just on the StreamYard team, with very, very high quality cameras. And a lot of the people that help out with our YouTube videos have very, very good cameras. Mine's actually, probably a lot of people in the chat have the same one. It's just a Logitech camera. So a Logitech C920. It's fairly good, but it's definitely, it's not the highest quality you can get. I really like it though. I'm a huge fan, and like it's quite inexpensive. It's great, honestly. Super portable, easy to set up. I shared new solo layout and hotkey for slides yesterday on my Facebook Live. I also just did a live outdoor with an iPhone. That was great. Awesome. That's very cool. Yeah, it's fun to kind of mix it up and do a mobile stream once in a while, especially if you got like a conference or something where it's just easier to do on mobile. Okay. NLTMW, can you limit the co-host to only see the brands that they are assigned to? Don't want them to see other brands / clients. Interesting. That makes sense. Yeah, that's a good one. So obviously, yeah, you can't do it right now, but that's something for us to think about. Is there a way to change your bitrate? So sort of, not too much. Like you don't have like full customization over it. We try to, again, kind of back to the ease of use pillar at the start that I mentioned. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So we try to just choose what we think is the best bitrate, and then you don't have to worry about it. But there are at least some options. So the most obvious one is you can switch between 720p and 1080p. If you go to 1080p, your bitrate's a lot higher. So that's kind of the biggest way you can change it. But even within 720p, your bitrate might go up, just a little bit by making the camera resolution higher. So instead of 480p, if you go to 720, it's a little higher. Not a huge jump, but by far the biggest one is 720 to 1080. So the admin can do everything that the host can do. That is correct. Yes, except for billing. So only the person that created the account can access billing. So that's like changing your card, looking at your invoices. But an admin can basically do everything else. So you definitely don't want to add people's admins unless you fully trust them. But it's great if you have like someone else on your team, for example. That's where it really shines. All right, Pete Johns, all he wants for Christmas. Show setting templates / duplicating. Cool. So we don't have that yet, but hopefully soon. Co-hosts that can create banners and intros and outros. Okay, cool. So good to know. So yeah, right now co-hosts cannot create banners or intros and outros or delete anything. They basically can't do anything destructive, like deleting all your banners or anything. An admin could, a co-host can't. But yeah, good to know. So that's almost like kind of a middle role between the two. Any other things, G23, that you'd like to see them be able to do as well, or just those? Okay, what else do we have? Actually, we're 20 minutes in, so I can come back and look at some of the end or some of the questions you have later or some of the thoughts. I want to make sure I cover the other one as well. So I can show this one off without actually screen sharing it. So as a lot of you are aware, but some of you I'm sure have not had a chance to try it out yet, we now have a virtual backgrounds feature. So actually, let me choose. This is probably my favorite background. This is the first example background we ever had. So the cleaner your background is, the better it will work. Like if you have a background like Geige does, where it's actually a green screen behind you, it will work much better. Whereas mine obviously is a lot of stuff in the background, but you can now replace your background without having to have a green screen behind you, which you always had to have in the past. So I've definitely been a big fan of this one. I find it performs quite well. We're always trying to make it better, so I'm sure you'll see like improvements to it over time. But yeah, I've been a pretty big fan of that. I know like I've been using it just kind of, we'll have some of our meetings on StreamYard internally, just to always be using our own product. And I've been using the virtual background a lot, and I found it works pretty good. So for anyone that hasn't tried it, if you go into settings, you go into the virtual background section, which used to be called green screen, now just called virtual background. And then in there's kind of two options. So one is you can either use what we call a virtual background like this, where you don't have to have a green screen behind you and it'll still replace your background. Or if you do have a green screen, there's a checkbox there. You check that, and then it'll just work better, basically. So that kind of uses all the stuff we used to have. And if you do have a green screen, it will work better for you. So the absolute best experience is to still have a physical green screen behind you, and that will just do a better job. Like you can obviously see, it's not perfect like this, but if you have a green screen, it's much, much better. And so check that box if you do have a green screen. Yeah, I've been a huge fan of it. And even the blur settings. So let me turn that one on. That's probably my favorite. So it's pretty subtle. We tried to have a really subtle blur. I'd be curious if anyone wants like a thicker blur that like really blurs out the background, but I kind of like this effect where you can almost barely tell that it's on, sort of thing, especially with certain backgrounds. Let me turn that off. Yeah, again, let me know if you have any feedback, anything you wish we would change. Any thoughts at all? Have you tried it? Does it work well for you? Okay. Can you please add a pop-up chat window to reduce switching tabs for producer/co-host? Definitely open to it. Yeah, we've considered a few different ways to do this, actually, not necessarily just popping out the chat, but that would be one way to do it. Just that is an extra window to manage. So yeah, open to it, but might even try and find a different way to kind of solve the underlying problem of avoiding switching tabs. I love the StreamYard background. Cool. Awesome. The drum set was fake? No, the drum set's real. The really cool piano in the background was fake, unfortunately. All right, we got some other requests here. Turn off chat or turn on slow chat in StreamYard in case you get bombed or attacked. Interesting. Yeah, because I get that it's hard to kind of ban people in real time or remove them from the chat. So that makes sense. Anything to kind of make managing chat easier, especially for people that are on by themselves, is definitely a priority for us. And we're a huge fan of changes like that. So we'll see what we can do. You said YouTube chat specifically. Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, there does seem to be a little more trolling and stuff on YouTube, especially then compared to like LinkedIn, but even Facebook. Not a fan of green screens, but it seems to work better in the virtual background. Yes. Yes, you do need good lighting with a green screen. So that's a very good point. So you need to have a physical green screen, which is probably the biggest challenge there. But yeah, you also need to light it quite well. If it's not lit well, then it won't work amazingly. But fortunately, that we do have tutorials and stuff for that, so it's not too hard to do. I'm with you, though. I prefer not to have a green screen, but I know a ton of people do. I like having kind of whatever the natural, normal background is. Virtual background is actually great, I find. If you were in, a hotel or something where there's maybe a weird background, or you're anywhere where you really don't want people to see your background, or even just your own house, and maybe, your kids were in there and it kind of messed everything up and you just want to hide that. I find that's great. The fact that in meetings, I don't know if everyone else is like this, but a lot of the meetings I'm in, most people have virtual backgrounds now. Definitely useful. Not as common, I find, for live streaming, just because, as live streamers, we tend to care a little more about the background and make sure everything's nice, but you're not always in a place where you can do that. So very useful for that. All right, Luke, Hopin just acquired Vectorly. So that's what's enabling virtual backgrounds to work. Yes, it is. So Vectorly is now that's a company that focuses specifically on virtual backgrounds and other types of AI for video. They are now part of Hopin. For anyone that doesn't know, StreamYard is also part of Hopin. So yes, we are absolutely using that for our virtual backgrounds, and we're hoping to use that for several other things as well, which has been awesome. Jen, the color of your walls looks like they might have a good green screen. I haven't tried it here actually, but I agree with you. It is pretty close. This is actually my parents' house, or part of my parents' house. So I'm up here visiting for Christmas. As some of you who watch the town hall are probably aware. So this is my childhood drum set. Fortunately, I don't have drums in my current house. You don't really forget how to play, though, I find. You definitely get worse, but you still remember. Okay, we need to do a giveaway. We only have 3 minutes left. So for everyone that doesn't know the drill here, you can type in #theyard. You can enter the giveaway. And tonight we will give away a StreamYard hoodie, the big StreamYard logo across the center, and the StreamYard pillow. So let me just screen share this for you. A lot of you already know the rules by the looks of it. So I'll just give it a minute or so. And you can only enter once. I appreciate that, Barb. It is definitely easier with 2 people. But again, this is why we love to kind of do streams sometimes by ourselves. Usually, obviously, there's 2 of us, but it's nice to have a stream by yourself once in a while. Is that a lucky beer bottle on the wall? Yes, you have a very good eye. It is. That is kind of the drink of choice in the town that I grew up in. Okay, we're pretty stable here. So again, this is for a hoodie and a pillow. Good luck, everyone. Dave. Congrats. I don't actually know if you've won before, Dave. So if you have, let me know. We could always draw again. I know I definitely know you're in the chat quite often, but let me know if you have won before. And Moto Mining says you must be an Islander. I am. I'm a Vancouver Islander. Not anymore, but that's where I'm from. Cool. Congrats, Dave. Let me see if there is a few final questions. It's obviously, it gets hard once we have the #theyards popping up in the chat. Diego says the blur is awesome. It's a question if you can use your own background. Yes, you can. So you can upload your own background. This is just in the settings tab, virtual backgrounds, you can upload your own. There's also a few defaults for you. Michael Daniels, been a big fan of pinned comments. Me as well, Michael. I find especially if you have multiple people, that's where it's really useful. But I'm sure a lot of people can do it by themselves just fine. Is anyone using the green screen that fits on the back of your chair? I've never actually tried that one myself. So I've tried I don't remember the name for it, but the one that's kind of an oval you put behind you, and then the Elgato that kind of drops down. It sort of looks like wallpaper. Never tried the chair one, but I'm sure people in the chat probably have. It's a cool idea. I actually don't have a back on the chair that I'm on now, so I don't know if it would even work. Also, I'd be curious how close it is to you, because if it's too close, you might get a lot of shadows, but that's all hypothetical. Coach Erica Love says, for the record, I love hanging out with streamers. If someone has a Facebook group or Discord, please let me know. Cool. You're probably already aware of the StreamYard group as well, Erica, but that'd be a great place to hang out with streamers and also see what other types of groups are out there by just asking around. That's just the StreamYard community group on Facebook. Let me just check if Dave's already won. I don't think he has. So. Awesome. Congrats, Dave. And with that, everyone, I'm not going to remember how to do Geige's outro, unfortunately. Let me roll it on the fly here. I'll make it my own outro. So thanks for hanging out on the town hall, everyone. This was episode 155. And as always, we will see you next week. Happy holidays, everyone.